Hello, James Patterson here. In this video, I'm going to explain how to restore an old photo to its former glory using Photoshop Elements. So let's get cracking. So we're in the Photoshop Elements expert mode here, and the first thing we'll do is bring up our layers panel, and I'm going to cut each of these segments out and copy it to a separate layer. So I can use the quick selection tool, which you'll find in the toolbar over here, and I can just resize my brush tip using the left and right square bracket keys on my keyboard, and I'll paint over each of these segments here. So I'll start off painting over this top area here, and then I'll use the keyboard shortcut Command or Control and J. That's Command J on a Mac, Control J on a PC, and that will copy that selected area to a new layer. So you can see now in the layers panel how that little segment there appears on a separate layer above the background. Now we just need to repeat that for all the other pieces. So now each of my segments is sitting on its own separate layer, and in fact I'll hide the background layer at this point so that I can work on these little segments. Now I'll grab the move tool from the tools panel over here, and I can just click on each piece, and notice in my tool options down here I've got this option to show bounding box checked here, and that just gives me this little bounding box around each layer. Again, if I zoom in a little closer here, you can see there's a bounding box, so I can click on the bounding box, and that just allows me to rotate the layer. So I can just make sure that top section there is perfectly horizontal, and then just click on each layer in turn, rotate it and position it until I'm happy that everything fits together neatly. So I'll just continue in this way with these last few segments. And you can see with this layer here, it's actually going behind the area that I want it on top of. So in that case, I just need to drag that layer to the top of the layer stack so that it fits on top there, and then I can position it exactly how I want it. And we'll just place these last couple of pieces down here. So now all the pieces are in place. The next job is to start tidying up these scratches and marks that are all over the print. So to do this, I'm going to highlight the top layer and click the Create New Layer icon here at the top of the Layers panel, and I'll rename this layer. I'll just call it Healing. Then I'm going to grab the Spot Healing Brush tool from the Tools panel over here, and in the Tool options, I'm going to make sure Sample All Layers is checked. That means I can sample from all the layers below while working on this empty layer at the top of the stack here. So now all we need to do is zoom in with the tool here, and we can use the left and right square bracket keys again to resize the tip, and we can just paint with the tool, and you can see how it does a pretty good job of fixing these scratches along the image. In some cases it might leave a slightly messy result, but at this stage I'm not really worried about that, because I know I can always tidy up when I go in and analyze the results a little bit closer and finish off in a second. So this is something we're going to spend a little bit of time on, just to make sure that we get rid of all of these little marks. So that was about 10 minutes worth of retouching, and if we zoom in a little closer here, you can see the difference that makes if I toggle that layer off and on. So this has taken us much of the way there, but there are still a few missing patches, and with areas like this, the best tool to use is the Clone tool. We can grab that from the toolbar over here, and this brings up the tool options down at the bottom here. We want to make sure Sample All Layers is checked here. And when using the tool, sometimes you want to have it at 100% opacity. Other times you might want to be blending tones, in which case you want to go for a lower opacity. And you can use the number keys on your keyboard to set a different opacity. So I can hit 4 for 40%, 5 for 50%, 6 for 60%, and so on, and 0 brings me back up to 100%. So I'm going to use 100% for this. I'm going to hold Alt to sample an area of the background nearby the portion I want to fix. I'm going to sample this area above here, and then I'm going to clone in this missing detail around this portion of the image here. So when using the clone tool, you want to be hovering your finger over the Alt key so that you can quickly sample different sources to build up the missing area. And I'm going to eat in from the bottom here as well, just by sampling from those pixels that are lower down. So again, this is going to take a bit of time. So you can see how I've managed to fill in those missing areas around the edges of the frame using the clone tool. Now we can also use the clone tool to perfect the fine details. So you can see there are slight problems like this that need to be fixed. So in this case we can use a small brush for the clone tool, and again just paint to just tidy up any little rough patches like this to create more of a seamless blend between all of these different sections and different prints here. And again, up here you can see there's a portion where the arm has gone slightly wrong. So again, I can hold Alt and sample a source nearby and then just create more of a natural shape to the arm like this. So I think that's my cloning and healing pretty much finished, and you can see we've managed to hide most of those rough patches to come up with a pretty good result here. If I toggle the layer, let's just zoom in a little bit closer, if I toggle that layer off and on again, you can see the difference that makes. Now all that's left to do really is crop in a bit tighter, so I'm going to grab the crop tool and just get rid of these messy edges like this to come in a bit tighter on the portrait. And then let's just fix that little edge there. Then what we can do is enhance the tones. I can do this using a levels adjustment layer. So I'm going to click the create adjustment layer icon here and choose levels. And I'm just going to drag in the black point here. If I hold Alt while dragging it, I get a view that shows clipped pixels. So I can drag to a point just before those clipped pixels begin to appear. And the same with the whites here. So I'll drag the whites to about there and the blacks to about there, I think. And if we take a closer look, you can see we've added a lot of nice contrast there, but we've also made the colors look slightly too yellow. A way to get around this is if we change the blend mode here from normal to luminosity, you can see that keeps the colors more subtle and nice. I think actually we could just tweak the midtones. I'm just going to lift those very slightly as well. And I'm happy with that. Now finally, I'm going to sharpen my image, and to do this I'm going to create a merged copy of all of my layers using the keyboard shortcut Command or Control Shift Alt and E. That's Command on a Mac, Control on a PC plus Shift Alt and E. And then that gives me a merged layer at the top of my stack there. I can go to Enhance, Unsharp Mask. And we'll set the amount around about 117, radius 1.6 is working quite well, and hit OK to apply that just to sharpen up my image. And that's my finished restored photo. This was our original here, and then we built it back together piece by piece before getting rid of the rips and scratches, and then finally finishing off with a tonal tweak and some sharpening.